Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor gives you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and for the latest updates, information, and picks, you can follow me on Twitter at Professor Sides. Today is Saturday, July 30th, 2022, and this episode covers all of today's Major League Baseball games. In case you're new here, I've built a mathematical model for win probability and totals using hitter and pitcher projections I've created along with weather data in order to make one side pick and one total pick on every game played Monday through Sunday. Though there are no Sunday shows, just like last week, there will be a special Sunday episode, more educational things to share with y'all. So be looking for that tomorrow. Now, that doesn't mean that I recommend that you make two plays on every game as well. My goal in this episode is to share key information about today's games, give you a few things to think on, and explain why the model or I like a certain play in order for you to come up with picks you are comfortable with. I never recommend blindly tailing or fading any pick, but rather to hear the justifications and thought processes to make sure you're fully on board with me or against me before investing your hard-earned money. As I go through my plays, remember there are no locks in gambling, so I'll give you our loves, likes, and leans to indicate my confidence level with respect to scaling wagers. And as always, please remember that good and bad variance will occur. So as much as I'd like to still be profitable each and every day, that is an impossible reality for any gambler. A wild night last night. I feel like we had some bad luck a little bit there. We lost the extra inning game. Multiple totals just couldn't quite get there. And yet still a profitable night. Got the Tigers winning in Toronto. And as I mentioned yesterday, the prices for the Blue Jays and the Yankees were just absurd yesterday. Made no sense. Hopefully y'all stayed away from both of those, even though the Yankees won. Probably wasn't good for for the hairline, right? if you had the Yankees in, they ran away late. But the Blue Jays didn't get the winner there. And so I say, I was just trying to make people think about this and remember that if a play isn't valuable by itself, throwing in a parlay doesn't make it a good play. So if you say, the odds are too steep, make sure that we think the odd that you want to throw it with a parlay, make sure it's the odds are too steep. That's not how I manage my bankroll, not the odds are too steep. In general, that's a bad idea, right? Remember, if the odds are too steep because it's a bad play with regards to the probability that the team wins versus the odds that you have to lay, it's not a good play no matter what you do with it. Now, if it's the odds are too steep and I just don't like managing my bankroll that way, again, I don't really love parlays. There's a lot of issues with them, a lot of ways things can go awry. But at least if you take a big favorite and you just say, that's just not the way I want to manage my bankroll. But would you play it by itself if you had a different bankroll style? Then that's the difference. And of course, the Blue Jays and Yankees, like I said, were two plays yesterday that it didn't make sense. Didn't make sense no matter what you did with them. And of course, one of them cost you if you laid those crazy big odds. Today, both of those games, the odds aren't quite as crazy. I still think they're a little bit too high, but not like yesterday. It's almost like everyone kind of realized, that was a bit too much, which is what I was trying to say. It was just way too much yesterday. Obviously, we'll see how the movement happens today. By the time you get this, the numbers might be a lot different. My hunch is the public's still going to be on those two big favorites. They're going to throw them into every parlay they've got, and maybe they both win, but it just seems like a scary proposition to me personally. But before we get into the rest of those games today, some reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free. And the only way, assuming you turn notifications on, to ensure that you don't miss any the college basketball, MLB, or college football content that this channel provides. Share with a friend if you're others in the game. Hit me up on Twitter or drop a comment from YouTube. I love those and try to respond to as many as I can. And as a reminder, we've partnered with Horse Racing Today. You can find their stuff at horseracingtoday.net if you like to bet on horse racing. They've got a team of 5 with over 125 years of combined experience in handicapping horse races. There isn't an angle they don't know or bias they can't identify. Today, their favorite play is over at Del Mar Race 2. Check out their YouTube shows or the website. Links are in the description. We're going to get going today with a banger of a play, in my opinion here. 1:10 Eastern, first pitch, Guardians at the Rays. It's interesting. There's two matchups this weekend. This is one of them that the model I don't think it's that the model loves the team that we're backing more or less than it dislikes the team that we're fading. And this is where I think it's not that the model is too high on Cleveland or too low on Tampa. I think it's just a little bit higher on Cleveland and a little bit lower on Tampa than everybody else is. This Guardians team, I think, is decent. And Tampa, I just think is kind of a mediocre team. They're hovering around 500. I think it's kind of who they are. I think both of these teams are relatively even. I don't think the Rays are that much better. The Rays being 129 favorites here, I think it's just way too high. I've got an A play on the Guardians at plus 119. Zach Plesac versus Corey Kluber. Both of these pitchers are fairly average. Both of them have ERAs right around 4. Both of the advanced metrics are in that same ballpark. Maybe a slight edge to Kluber, but I mean, you're talking about rounding error that could easily, in the course of random variance of one game, could easily play out the other way around. So it's not like there's a real edge here. Pitching wise, the Guardians have the better offense and the better relievers. I mean, the clear edge that the Rays have in general is the fact that they've got a guy like McClanahan at the top of the rotation, who is one of the best pitchers in baseball. But I think this Guardians team is solid. They got the win for us last night, and I think they can get the win tonight here, or this afternoon here. Model says Guardians should be a minus 103 favorite. Basically says a coin toss game. Says the starting pitchers are a wash, and that the fact that the Guardians have a little bit better of an offense and a little bit better relief corps balances out the home field advantage that Tampa would have here, the probably minimal home field advantage Tampa would have here. Guardians at plus 119 offers tremendous value to start us off with. Again, it's not a guarantee that they win. It's not a lock that they win. It's just saying, hey, in a coin toss game, plus 119 is tremendous value that we want to take every day of the week and twice on Sunday if we can get it. And with regards to total, I'll go under 7.5. It's a B grade play. The model says 7.2. We got a pitcher's park here, 2 decent pitchers, 2 offenses that really don't inspire a lot of confidence. And the Rays bullpen doesn't rate well, but they can mix and match a little bit here. And so assuming it's a tight game, the Rays definitely have decent enough relievers to not let things get out of hand. It's not like it's the Reds bullpen. It's not like it's the Diamondbacks bullpen. And so it's a situation that I think with the pitcher's park and 2 solid starters, I think under 7.5 makes a lot of sense. I'd make this total 7, probably juice the over a little bit, dare people to go under in a pitcher's park or dare people to go over in a pitcher's park. Just say, like, what are you going to do with 7, right? I mean, you don't really want to go over a number like that in a situation where you're playing in Tampa with decent pitchers, but under 7 is a tougher ask. That's how I'd hang it. So under 7.5, I think has some solid value here. That's a B grade play, especially with no extra juice on that one. 2:05 Eastern, first pitch Royals at the Yankees. A warm wind in New York. We're going to be in the upper 80s all game long, and a wind blowing out at almost 10 miles an hour. Very friendly hitter weather, and that's why I've got an A grade play on this over 8.5. It is juiced. Model says 9.3. I'd hang this at 9 and juice the over, and maybe even go 9.5. I think there's going to be a lot of runs in this one. It's hot. Wind's blowing out. Nestor Cortez is fantastic. I've talked a lot about him. I like him a lot. Now, he's not as good as that 2.48 ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be about a full run higher. So, I mean, you've got a pitcher for the Yankees who, again, we like, but not one who's, top tier caliber against a guy in John Heasley, who I have zero faith in whatsoever, a 5.50 ERA, and that's what the advanced metrics say. One of the worst pitchers in my starting pitcher database. I think the Yankees are going to be able to score a lot of runs. Can the Royals score some runs? Who really knows with that team? They go stretches without scoring. They put up 5 runs in an inning off Garrett Cole, who to be fair, has struggled a little bit maybe lately, but they've had stretches where they'll go a 3-game series and score a ton of runs, and then they'll have 3 games where they won't score anything. So will the Royals score anything? I'm not really sure. I think it's worth a flyer on them at plus 266. The odds are a little bit too high, but it's not like yesterday. Yesterday, I really said, hey, I think it's a decent investment on the Royals. And, of course, Tigers as well, which is the next game we'll talk about. Today, I don't think it's as good of an investment. It may be worth a tiny bit just for fun. But this one's priced a little bit better. The model says 253. So it is a situation like yesterday where it's Royals or pass. But yesterday it was Royals or pass, and I thought the Royals made a lot of sense. Today it's Royals or pass, and I kind of would lean more towards passing. I don't think 266 is enough value to get me that excited, whereas yesterday had just incredible value. Again, mathematically, there's a 1 or 2% edge here, so it's not bad. But as we get towards the outliers here, we have a lot more error in general. So again, I wouldn't play the Yankees at minus 300. Anything can happen, especially with the hot day and the wind blowing out. Again, we like Cortez, but if I don't want to say he's due for regression. It's kind of not the right way to think about it. But the idea being, if he's a little bit overvalued because his results have been good, but the underlying metrics suggest maybe he's good, not great. Wind blowing out, Royals can easily hit a few home runs. Now, of course, you have the whole, maybe the Royals will trade someone this morning. Early day game, probably not as likely, but you never know as we get towards the deadline. The Royals get, easily hit a few home runs, high scoring game, anything can happen. I think plus 266 is not the worst play in the world. Again, it's not what I love, just a lean. Main thing is, like I said, I just think minus 300 on the Yankees is a bit too much. Not quite as bad as yesterday, but still a little bit too much, in my opinion. But like I said, I think a high scoring game over 8.5, minus 120 odds, A grade play for me. I still like over 9 as well, if that's where the number goes. I have no idea where the number is going to go, especially if you're in the minus 105 or even money range. That would still be an A grade, in my opinion. But as the odds on the 9 get higher, it probably drops to a B grade. Because you are losing a little bit of the value there, depending on how much it creeps up. 3:05 Eastern first pitch, Tigers at the Blue Jays. Drew Hutchison versus Ross Stripling. Kind of a similar story here, but both starting pitchers are worse. Hutchison is somehow worse than Heasley is projection-wise. His ERA is a little bit better, but he's not a guy who's going to offer a lot of length, and that, of course, makes things a little bit harder on the team having to throw extra bullpen innings. So the benefit for the Tigers is their relievers are a little bit better than the Royals, but the Tigers are a team who, I don't know, by the time this game's played, may not even have any relievers. The idea or the thought process is between today and tomorrow and Monday morning, they'll be trading off some of their relievers. But Hutchison's not a guy who I think is going to go deep. I don't think he's going to be very good. Stripling, not as good as Cortez, not bad. And a 3.10 ERA this season, the advanced metrics aren't quite as friendly to him than that. I think it should be more in the 3.5s. But a solid pitcher for the Blue Jays. Something they desperately need at this point. Blue Jays relievers project better. Their offense projects a lot better. The Blue Jays should win this game, but it's a similar story to the Yankees. 280 is a little bit too high, in my opinion. Model says 246. I'll take a flyer on the Tigers plus 249, but again, it's the same story as the Royals. Comparing both to yesterday, not nearly as good a value as we got on these underdogs yesterday. Yesterday, to me, it was Tigers or pass, but I thought Tigers made a lot of sense. Today it's Tigers or pass, and honestly, passing isn't the craziest idea. Stripling is decent enough to get the Blue Jays a win here. I just, like I said, I can't advocate minus 280 on the Blue Jays. Doesn't mean the Blue Jays and Yankees both won't win. It just means that, like I'm always saying, the reward that you're getting on the payout is less than the risk that you're adding, because baseball can be random and upsets happen all the time. But I really love this total. Model says 9.7. I'm going A grade over. Even money over this 9. We got the push protection. Couldn't quite get there yesterday. We assume the Blue Jays will have all of their hitters in today, just because the over didn't hit yesterday. I don't think has any bearing on today. I think this is a great over spot. A grade play for me there. I'm expecting a lot of runs in the afternoon blowout games, the games that we expect to be blowouts here. 4:10 Eastern, first pitch, Brewers at the Red Sox. Another game we're expecting a lot of runs. Warm day in Boston, mid-80s, pretty much the whole time. Winds will be blowing out 10 to 15 miles an hour. Though by the end of the game, they might be more across to right field than out. So something to keep an eye on there, how much wind will affect things. But we've kind of seen in Fenway this year, the wind hasn't really helped that much. It's kind of just a hitter's park. We got weird dimensions, and whether the wind's blowing or not, teams score runs or they don't, kind of independent of that. The biggest factor here has been temperature, and it's a warm one, so we do expect a lot of runs. Model says 9.7. I'll take a chance on the under 10 at minus 126. I think it's priced pretty well, though. Between under 10 with a lot of juice or over 9.5 with a lot of juice, I think both of those are pretty spot on, and that's probably the situations that we're eyeing, at least as of this morning. I think the total's pegged pretty well. I don't think there's a lot of value in it. And I think the same thing on the side. I think there's better opportunities for our investment money today. The model says Red Sox minus 103, so I'll take a chance with them at minus 105. But I think this is a real coin toss game, and the odds reflect that. So I just don't think there's a lot of value here personally. Both of these pitchers are solid. Both of them get 97 grades. Lauer's numbers are better, but his advanced metrics are a little bit behind Pivetta. Again, neither guy is a guy that I'm excited about, but both are solid pitchers at this point. Both teams' relievers project above average. You do have a better Brewers offense on the whole, but then when you consider the lefty-righty splits, that gap shrinks a little bit. I think the Brewers are a little bit of a better team here, a little bit better offense, a little bit better in the relievers. Starting pitchers are a wash. Boston's at home. Like I said, I mean, it makes sense to me. It's just a straight-up coin toss game here. And so at minus 105 on each side, I just can't see a great investment opportunity in this one. For the night game, 6:10 Eastern, first pitch, Mets at Marlins. One game we don't have a number out for yet. It was supposed to be Trevor Rogers. He landed on the IL. And so the thought is that it'll be Nick Neidert, called up from AAA Jacksonville. Doesn't make it into my starting pitcher database. That's because he's not very good. He's not a guy that we project to go very deep. So I'm kind of treating this as a bullpen game. He has the ability to go deep, but he also has the ability to get just beat up pretty poorly. So that's why I think it makes sense to treat it that way. A lot of variability on a guy like Neidert. We've seen him have some good starts and go 6 or 7 innings, but the Mets could just run right over him, and that wouldn't surprise me at all. Pretty good pitcher here for the Mets. Carrasco, 4.07 ERA. The advanced metrics say it should be about a half run better. Carrasco's a guy I like to back. It's a pretty solid grade. Like I said, he's been a great story this year. I think he can handle this pitiful Marlins offense. Mets have the edge on the starting pitcher, offense, and relievers. The only place they don't have an edge is at the fact they're on the road. But otherwise, the Mets should be solid favorites here. I don't know where this number will come out at. The model says minus 185. I'm hoping that we can get a number that starts with a 1, and I'll be on the Mets. If it's a high 1, it'll just be a lean, of course, because the value won't be there. But it's going to be a tough ask, in my opinion, if the Mets are minus 210 type favorites. Are we bold enough to go with the Marlins at big plus odds? That sort of thing. But like I said, model says minus 188. I'm hoping for a number that starts with a 1 on the Mets, and then we just got to figure out how much value we have. But the Mets should win this game. They're a much better team at every single aspect. And the model says a total of 7.7. The total is tough to peg. I do assume this one will be in the 7.5 to 8 range. My assumption is it's going to be a C pick on the total because there's not going to be a lot of value. It's a tough one to figure out because the Mets can absolutely score off of Neidert and the Marlins relievers that are just kind of average. But you don't really expect this Marlins offense, especially the way they've been playing, to score that many runs off Carrasco. Last night aside, where they got 4, you don't expect them to do that continuously. You expect the Marlins to get maybe 2, max 3 runs. And then at that point, how many the Mets score? Like I said, I think the total is going to be a lot tougher to peg. But again, the Mets model says Mets minus 185 and total of 7.7. So we'll see what happens when that number comes out. I'll tweet out a play and add it to the sheet. 6:40 Eastern, first pitch. One of our favorite teams here, the Orioles at the Reds. I'm still confused at why people don't realize this Orioles team is solid. They're not as good as the Mariners, but they are an average team, maybe even a slightly above average team on the strength of that bullpen against a Reds team that just isn't very good. Today it'll be Dean Kremer versus Tyler Mahle. Kremer's the guy we talked about yesterday. We thought he would go, and he's pushed back a day. 3.06 ERA, advanced metrics do say it should be a run higher, so I have him at just average. Mahle, a 4.50 ERA, advanced metrics say it should be a half run better. So I think Malle's the better pitcher here, but that's really the only place that the Reds have an edge. Their offense isn't terrible, but it still lags behind the Orioles, and of course the Orioles have a massive edge when it gets to the bullpen. Yesterday's A-grade pick on the Orioles, and it was 2-2 late. I thought this is perfect. I absolutely want a 2-2 game when it gets to the bullpens because I feel great about the Orioles pen versus the Reds, and that's how it played out. And I think the same thing here. As long as Kremer and can kind of offset Mahle and say this game's tight here after 6 innings or so, you have to really like your chances with the Orioles. We're not getting as good a value as yesterday, though, so only a B-grade pick on the Orioles at minus 105. Model says minus 112, so it says the Orioles should be small favorites here on the road. Not as much value to get it to an A-grade play, but I think the Orioles make a lot of sense here tonight in Cincinnati. Like I said, I think they're just the better team. We just have to offset the starting pitching edge that the Reds have tonight, and we should be set. And I'll take a chance on the under 9 at minus 105. It's a C plus grade for me. I just couldn't quite get to a B play. I really wanted to, but there's just too much variability in that park with how it can really play so hitter friendly. We've seen runs explode there. We saw it last night. The Orioles had the bases loaded, and there were 7 runs already on the board in I believe it was the 8th inning. Could have easily gotten that to double-digit runs, and that's just kind of what happens in that ballpark. Runs can happen in a hurry, so I just can't be that confident going under. But I think under makes more sense than the over. Both these starting pitchers are decent. I don't expect a ton of runs early, and the Orioles bullpen, I think, can shut the Reds down. So I think under makes more sense. I just couldn't quite get to a B pick in that park. Weather-wise, though, it does set up to be more of an under. We're going to start around 80 degrees and close in the low 70s. So it's not a hot summer night in Cincinnati. No real wind to speak of. Just that park just scares me off a little bit from getting it to a B grade under, in my opinion. To our beloved Mariners, 17 Eastern first pitch, a team that you want to back them unless they're playing the Astros, apparently. I'll take the Astros again tonight here at minus 188. A B grade play. I think the Astros are the side you want to be on. I think it's very similar to last night. You just got to figure out how big of a price you're willing to lay. I don't think this is much about. I just don't want to get over into the narratives about one team owning another and that meaning anything. We've seen too much. There's too much randomness in baseball, too much randomness in sports and human behavior. These are professional athletes. The Mariners aren't in the dugout or in the clubhouse just saying like, oh, well, we can beat everybody but the Astros. I mean, that's not what they think. They all think they're the best player in the world. That's the mindset they have to have. And I don't see there being any mental snafu here. I just think that's what we like to talk about because we're sitting on our couches and it makes for good conversation and it makes us – this is human behavior. I don't want to get off too much on teams. This is human psychology 101. We like to attach meaning to things in life and we like to find patterns. That served us really well thousands of years ago living in the wilderness. We like to serve patterns because if we saw a tiger and our friend went up to pet the tiger, the friend died. And so that really helped us out as humans, but it doesn't really, I think, work in sports. So I'm not buying into that narrative. What I'm buying into the narrative of is the fact that Framber Valdez is a much better pitcher than Chris Flexen. I'm buying into the fact that the Astros still have a better offense and they still have a better relief corps than the Mariners. They're still a better team than the Mariners. As much as I like the Mariners, I think they're undervalued in general. I just think this Astros team is better. I think the price is a little bit short. Model says minus 194. I'll take the Astros at minus 188 with a B grade pick. I love Framber. He absolutely can go out there and throw 7 shutout innings tonight. Flexen does have a 3.75 ERA, but the advanced metrics say it should be a full run higher than that. I think that's benefited by some good luck and being in a pitcher's park. I think the Astros take advantage of that tonight. I think there's a pretty big starting pitcher mismatch here. And anytime I'm playing a number close to 2, I want things like a home team. I want to have a massive starting pitcher edge, and I want to have edges everywhere else. Edges are smaller for the Astros offensively and in the bullpen, but they're still there. And again, a huge edge starting pitcher-wise. So I think this is okay to lay a price with the Astros. I'm giving it a B grade. I'd love a smaller number than this, but as long as the number is under 2, that first number under 2, I think you're fine playing the Astros here. I think it's worth the price. I just think they're the better team, and this sets up to be advantage Astros. This is why the Mariners are either have by the time you watch this or are set up to acquire a guy like Luis Castillo. They need some extra help starting pitcher-wise because they just don't have the depth. They've got a handful of pitchers at the back end of the rotation that are just average, and that's not going to set you up well. Adding a guy like if you put Luis Castillo in this game, all of a sudden the Mariners have a puncher's chance. Not to say they can't win tonight. Again, baseball's random. It just means their odds are not great tonight, but you throw Castillo in there and their odds are a whole lot better. So that's why they need a guy like that. Tonight, though, I think the Astros are the way to go. And I'll take the over 8 with a lean. Model says 8.1, so I like the minus 103, but I think 8's the right number for this. I think this is set fairly well. I think the only values on the juice, I probably would have it more at minus 110 or minus 112 or something like that. I think the Astros could put up runs off Flexen, but I don't love going over here because a guy like Framber can always shut out the other team. It sets up a lot like yesterday. Verlander and Framber are very similar in terms of where the model rates them. I don't see the Mariners scoring a lot of runs. Yesterday, the Astros put up double digits by themselves and got us to the over. So maybe the same thing happens here tonight, but it's not one I'm overly confident in just because I don't think the Mariners are going to help us out too much to get to this over. But I think over, especially at those odds, makes a lot more sense than the under does. 7:15 Eastern first pitch, Cardinals at the Nats. Low 80s to start, upper 70s to finish. No real wind effect in this one. To go to Hudson versus Eric Fetty. Hudson's a guy I've been saying all season, smoke and mirrors, do not believe in those numbers, and sure enough, he's come back to earth. His ERA's ballooned up to 4.10. Advanced metrics still say it should be about a half run higher, so Hudson's not a pitcher that I think is that great. Gets a 106 rating. That's still better than Fetty, though, who has a 4.95 ERA, and that's about where the underlying metrics say he should be. 2 rough starting pitchers in this one. I'll take the over 9.5. Model says 9.8. This really could have been a B pick. I like the odds at minus 101, anything around even money here. It's just that 9.5 is always tougher. My personal kind of rule here is if we're going over 9.5, I want the model to say the total should be at least 10, not close to 10, because 9 is such a common number in baseball for final scores. It's one of the more common score endings. 9 and 7 are your most two common. And so given that it's so common to land on 9, going over that 9.5 is just a little bit scary, but I don't really trust either starting pitcher. Both bullpens can absolutely give up some runs. It's just we're not getting a good strong breeze out, and we're not getting warm enough weather in Washington for me to really get there to a B grade pick. It's almost there. I just can't quite do it. If you can go over 9, even if you're laying some juice, that's a B, and maybe even up to an A grade depending on the juice. I just think that push protection on 9 is worth a lot here. And you'll see that with books. They'll be way more likely to go crazy juice on a number like 9, knowing how common that is, and they don't want to come off that because they don't want to end up in a situation where they lose and push. And so if you can grab an over 9, especially even if it's juiced a little bit, that's definitely a B play. And if it's not juiced that much, it'd be an A. I can't quite get there to a B grade with this over. I just don't love going over 9.5s. But I do love the Cardinals here at minus 137. It's an A grade play. Model says minus 154. It's a wash with regards to the starting pitcher. It's a wash with regards to all the pitching, but the Cardinals just have a much better offense. I don't trust this Nats offense whatsoever. It's a night game. We've got at this point, a 1 out of whatever 4 chance Soto's traded before this game happens. That would obviously help a lot. We also have, Nelson Cruz might get traded. I mean, you have a lot of ways that this Nats offense gets worse between now and game time, given it's a night game. In general, even if the full lineup exists in there for the Nationals, the Cardinals offense is just light years ahead of the Nationals. I think this price is too short. I don't like this Nationals team. I think that the Cardinals win this one. I think they win it handily. And like I said, I don't think minus 137 is that much of a price to lay. A grade pick for me on the Cardinals. I think they can get it done here tonight in DC. 7:15 Eastern, first pitch, Phillies at the Pirates, about 80 degrees to start, low 70s to close, no real wind effect. Ranger Suarez versus Mitch Keller. Suarez coming around, starting to look like the pitcher he was at the end of last season after a really slow start to this year. 3.84 ERA, advanced metrics line up pretty evenly with that. He continues to look better and impress me here as this season goes along versus Mitch Keller, whose advanced metrics actually are a little better than Suarez. Keller, another pitcher that I like, probably not going to give the length that Suarez gives, and so that kind of dings him a little bit, but I don't think the Phillies have that big of an edge with regards to the starting pitcher. Where they have an edge is everywhere else. The fact that their offense is much better than the putrid Pirates offense, and the fact that their relievers are much better than the Pirates relievers. We saw the Phillies get it done in extras yesterday. The Phillies, their offense is good enough with the wash with regards to the starting pitchers that they probably take a lead early in this game, and if they don't, they have a huge edge in the bullpen, and they can take a lead then. I think there's a lot of ways the Phillies win this game. I don't think minus 147 is high enough. It's a B-grade play. Model says minus 159. If this number drops any, I could easily see giving it an A grade. It's just we're already having to risk 3 units just to win 2, so I don't really want to add a unit and a half to that at this number. But the Phillies are the right side, in my opinion, and I think this number should be a lot higher. I just don't think this Pirates team is very good. I love backing the Pirates when the odds are there, but the value is just surprisingly not there here. And I don't think people realize what I've been saying all week on the Phillies is that the Phillies are a decent team. They're not great, but they're good enough that they should be able to go on the road and beat this Pirates team more times than the odds imply. So B-grade pick for me on the Phillies at minus 147. And I'll take over 8 with just a lean. Model says 8.1, so the model says this is pegged very well. I probably would flip the juice here, but otherwise I think 8's the right number. I never trust the Pirates to prevent runs, especially their bullpen, and I never really trust them to score runs. So totals in the Pirates games are really difficult unless the number just makes no sense. We've seen a few of those lately and taken advantage of it, but this one I think is pretty spot on, and I have no idea what to do with this total. I think main focus here, just back the Phillies, again, assuming the price doesn't get too much out of hand. 7:15 Eastern, start time. A's at the White Sox. Got a big plus odds winner with the A's and the over yesterday. Today I'm flipping to the under 8.5. It is juiced heavily. It's an A-grade play. This total makes no sense in my mind. I don't understand it. I wouldn't be surprised if this closes at 7.5. No idea if it will, but we've seen these like full run moves in the totals before, and this is one that's over a full run off in my opinion. Model says 7.3. It's not that warm in Chicago tonight. It'll be in the mid to upper 70s. The winds will be blowing in at 5 to 10 miles an hour, and you've got 2 decent starting pitchers. I'm very perplexed at how you hang a number like 8.5 with Blackburn and Cueto. I really just have no words. I love this under. I hope it hangs at 8.5 for y'all. throughout the day. Again, I never know where the number's going to go. I don't mind laying the juice here. I'd still have an A grade on the under 8, although at under 8, I do hope that you can get more like minus 105. But even then, I still think 8's too high. Like I said, model says 7.3. I'd hang 7.5 and juice the under. I'm very perplexed. Blackburn is a solid pitcher. Cueto is a solid pitcher. Now, Cueto isn't as good as that ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be about a full run and a quarter or so higher than that. But both these pitchers are solid enough. Both these relief corps solid enough. The A's relievers kind of continue to impress me. A's bats don't have a lot. White Sox, again, don't hit righties as well as they hit lefties. Shouldn't be that many runs in this game tonight. I love under. And I'll take another chance with the A's again, see if they can win 2 in a row here as underdogs. Model says 148 is the right price. I'll take plus 148. I don't think there's a lot of value in it. Can't get to a B grade. The A's have a chance in this one with Blackburn. White Sox probably more likely to win. I just can't justify backing the White Sox at a price like minus 165. Not against Blackburn, not with Cueto. Again, I think being a little bit overvalued. Again, I think he's good. I think he's above average. I just don't think if you look at his ERA and say 289 that you're like, oh, well, that's definitely an ace, because I don't think he's quite at that level. So I'll take a chance with the A's. But like I said, I love this under. I think both pitchers above average, neither offense really great, both relievers okay, fairly pitcher-friendly weather, really inflated number for some crazy reason. Let's take advantage of it. 7:20 Eastern first pitch, Diamondbacks at the Braves. Chance of rain here in Atlanta. Kind of like usual here in a summer night in Georgia. So just have to watch out for what happens here. Might play through it, have no issues, might have some thunderstorms delaying us. Probably not going to make the game postponed, but there could be a delay that could affect starting pitchers or something to keep an eye on there. About 80 degrees to start, mid-70s to close. No real wind effect as it'll be mostly across and not that strong. Corbin Martin versus Ian Anderson. Anderson's not a guy I really like. 5.31 ERA. Now, the advanced metrics say it should be about a run better, but just an average pitcher. A guy who we've talked about a lot, maybe gets going at some point. Just not quite there yet. He is better than Corbin Martin, though. Martin doesn't project to do very well. He does have a 3.93 ERA in his 18 innings this season. Most of that's been in the bullpen. Advanced metrics on those 18 innings are fine, but he's just not a guy that we have a lot of faith in at this point. Not a guy we have a lot of faith in to go deep. And, of course, it turns over to the Diamondbacks bullpen, which now rates as the worst bullpen in the league, against the Braves, which I think have the best bullpen in the league, according to the projections. Braves have an edge on offense. Not a huge one, but a little bit of one. Braves should win this game. I think minus 212 is an okay price to lay. Model says 220. It's about as high as I want to go before it gets off into a C grade. I think the Braves are the right side. I don't mind laying a price. I just don't want to lay a price like minus 240 or something like that on the Braves. That would be a little bit too much. But in the low 200s, I think you're fine taking the favorite here. They're the better team. They have stuff to play. We're getting to the point of the season where we start thinking about what do you have to play for, and do you have, are you really showing up every night? Braves should go out there and play and win this game. Diamondbacks, you never really know exactly what they're going to do. And they're just not that good. So, I mean, if anything's off with the Diamondbacks and how bad they are, I'm not sure how many times out of 10 they can win this game. So I think there's a little bit of value here at 212 on the Braves. And I'll take the under at 9.5. It's just a lean. I like the minus 102. Model says 9.4. They've hung a pretty good number here. I just think that we got a little bit of value on the juice, but I'm very nervous as to how many runs the Braves can score off of what I assume is going to be 6-ish innings of Diamondbacks relievers. Braves probably score a lot of runs, but like I said, I think the under makes a little bit of sense here, especially like I said at minus 102. If I had to hang this number, I'd probably hang 9.5 as well, but I'd probably make the under more like minus 112. So again, getting a tiny bit of value there on the under, but not worth a ton of investment. Main thing here is I think the Braves win, and I think a price in the low 2s isn't too shabby. 8:10 Eastern, first pitch Dodgers at the Rockies. Dodgers held on last night, didn't win by the 1.5 to cover the run line, just to reinforce what I talked about previously, which is the Dodgers had won so many games by more than one. That was a fun streak, but that wasn't really predictive. Going forward, they still projected to win a bunch of games by one because teams win by one. That wasn't something that would always hold. Now, they're more likely to win by more than one because they're a good team, but that doesn't mean that they were going to have quite so crazy splits as they had before. And you're seeing that with more 1-run victories here lately. Doesn't mean you shouldn't take the Dodgers on the run line. Just something to keep in mind that that's not like a lock or anything, that there's nothing magical, that they're going to revert to. They're going to win some games by 1, just like they did last night. Upper 80s tonight in Denver to start, around 80 to finish. Winds will be blowing in to start off with at about 8 to 10 miles an hour, and then kind of shift to across by the time the night wears on. So warmer to start, wind maybe helping us a little bit. And then as it cools down, the wind won't help us as much, but at least the temperature will be cooler. Clayton Kershaw versus Kyle Freeland. Kershaw's fantastic. Not really anything to say about him. The advanced metrics line up pretty well with his 2.49 ERA. Freeland, a 4.64 ERA. Advanced metrics say it should be a little bit better than that. Freeland rates is above average. Kershaw's obviously very good still. I don't really trust this Rockies offense that much, but again, they do hit lefties better. They couldn't get it done off Urias last night. Dodgers hit lefties worse, or they project against lefties worse. Again, as we talked about before, they're really left-handed heavy, especially right now with Taylor still out. I think the the Rockies got a chance in this one. They didn't pull it off last night, but I think the odds at least warrant a look. I personally wouldn't lay the Dodgers at a price like 225. I think that's too steep. I'll take the Rockies plus 203 with a lean. Model says 186 is the right price. I love backing the Dodgers when there's value on them. It's worked great for us. I just don't think there's value tonight. It doesn't mean the Dodgers don't win. It just means at these big prices like this, they lose enough times, not often, but they lose enough times that we lose back everything we've won off them. So I'm just not sure a Dodgers play makes a lot of sense tonight. And the Rockies have a chance, but I really like the under here. Under 11.5 at minus 120 to be grade pick. The model thinks it should be 11. I think maybe even 10.5 would make some sense here. It is warmer to start, but I think that Kershaw is good enough to hold down this Rockies offense. Again, the Rockies offense does do better against lefties, but obviously you have to kind of trust Kershaw to not get completely hit around that much. Freeland's a solid pitcher. We talked about him before. He pitches decent at home. Again, a Dodgers offense that's a little bit left-handed heavy relative to the rest of the league. I think this can kind of stay low scoring, kind of like last night's was. We didn't get as many runs as we thought we would have last night. I see tonight being a similar 5-4 type game. I think anybody can win. Like I said, I think that makes the Rockies a decent play. I'd love to be in an anybody can win scenario at plus 203. But the main investment here I have is the under 11.5. Twins at the Padres, 8:40 Eastern first pitch. Mid-70s to start, around 70 degrees to close. Maybe some rain showers in San Diego. Probably not going to affect things, but just the fact that that's not like a single-digit number for chance of rain is always surprising. Winds will be blowing out at 5 to 10 miles an hour tonight. Sonny Gray versus Joe Musgrove. Two pitchers that I like. Musgrove is a little better. Advanced metrics, he only outshines Gray by about a quarter of a run, but of course Musgrove going to give you a lot of length. So you have to like Musgrove more than Sonny Gray. But relievers, probably a wash here. Offense, Twins have a better offense. I think plus 120 is too high. I'll take the Twins at plus 120, just a B-grade pick. Model says it should be plus 111. So I think there's some value on the Twins, but you can't go too hard against a guy like Musgrove. I don't think last night means a whole lot. Padres got an easy winner last night. Snell looked good. Talked about he's actually starting to look a lot better as the season's moved along. And I expect good things from Musgrove, but I expect better things from Sonny Gray than what we got from Joe Ryan last night. I think the Twins have a chance. I think it's a coin tossy type game. Plus 120 makes sense. Just not enough value to give it an A grade. And with regards to the total, I'll take the over 7.5 at minus 103. Got a wind blowing out. Got a little bit warmer of a night in San Diego than usual. Model says 7.6. Again, main thing is that I think the juice is off. I'd make this number 7.5, but I'd put the over at more like minus 113 rather than minus 103. So we're getting a little bit of value on the over, but it's just not a great investment opportunity. It's more of a long-term. Some of these where the odds are a little bit off, I think are more long-term. If you're playing half the totals or two-thirds of the totals every day, I think in the long run it's going to pay off. But if you're only playing a handful of totals, I think there's better total investments. It's just in the long run, I think these where the totals, I think, have the juice backwards and you're getting something close to even money, I think can make sense as a long-term type play, but it's definitely not my favorite total on the board. 9:05 Eastern, first pitch, Cubs at the Giants. It'll be a chilly one in San Francisco, upper 50s the entire night. Winds blowing out at 10 to 15 miles an hour, but again, as I always talk about, means very little in that park with the way it was built. This is the other situation I talked about. I don't think the model loves the Cubs. I think the model thinks the Cubs are a little bit better than the books do, and the model just doesn't think the Giants are that good. The books are still holding on to the Giants being some semblance of the team they were last year, and I just don't think they are. They lost last night. We got a plus odds winner with the Cubs, and we could have easily had a plus odds winner with the Cubs on Thursday. I'm still better about that pop fly that was missed that cost us on that Thursday play of the day. I think the Cubs at plus 123 makes a lot of sense again tonight. It's an A-grade play. I think these starting pitchers are a wash, just like they've been most of this series. I don't really think Junis or Smiley are that good. Both of their advanced metrics trail behind their ERAs. Neither guy is a guy I feel really confident is going to go more than 4 or 5 innings. I mean, 6 would be a great start, I feel like, for either one of these guys. And then it goes back to what we're talking about. The Cubs have a huge edge with regards to the relievers. These Giants relievers are terrible. I just don't understand why the Giants are favored like this. I know they're at home, but this price implies that the Giants are actually the better team. And again, bullpens matter, especially on a night like tonight when I don't think either starter is going to go terribly deep into the game. Much rather have the Cubs relievers who are a little bit better than average. Maybe if the model's a little too high on them, average, but much better than the Giants. And again, with regards to the lefty-righty splits, both of these offenses get a little bit of a ding, but they still rate pretty similar. The Giants' offense might be a little bit better, but not by that much. Not by enough to overcome the fact that these Giants relievers just give up a lot of runs. Cubs plus 123 is the play. Model says it should be Cubs minus 110. I don't understand this. I don't understand why the books think the Giants are decent, or why the books think the Giants are good. I think neither one of these teams is that good. And given the Cubs have much better relievers, plus 123 odds just makes way too much sense in my opinion. A-grade play for me on the Cubs. And I'll go under 8 at minus 108. The model says 8 exactly. It's a chilly night in San Francisco. We have better odds in the under than the over. I absolutely hate this total, though. It's a total I want zero part of. Really, I just want to back the Cubs at the plus odds and hope we can get another plus odds winner like we did last night. And to wrap us up, 9:05 Eastern first pitch, Rangers at the Angels. Upper 70s to start in Anaheim, around 70 degrees to close. Winds blowing out, kind of like usual in Anaheim, a little bit stronger to start the night and dying down at the end of the night. Glenn Otto versus Chase Silseth. Neither pitcher is one to be excited to go watch. Both these guys have ERAs in the 5s. Both of the advanced metrics say it should be around 5. Neither guy is particularly one you have confidence in going deep into the games, giving you to the relievers, which are, I don't know, maybe better than these starters, but not by much. Should be some fairly terrible pitching in this game tonight, which is why I love this over 8.5. It's an A-grade play for me at minus 108. Model says 9.4. I don't know why this total isn't 9. I would go 9 on this one, juice the over heavily. I don't even consider 9.5. Like I said, the model says 9.4, and I just don't see how you have any confidence that there's not runs in this game, given how bad these pitchers are. But we've had some lower scoring games out here in this series, but that's with much different pitching. We talked about last night, the pitching matchup between Perez and Sandoval's two good pitchers. Talked about the previous night with Ohtani being a good pitcher. I mean, obviously Spencer Howard, that was confusing, but of the 4 pitchers who've pitched in the series, 3 of them have grades that are better than 90 in my model. Both of these starting pitchers are around 110. I mean, I don't – if it was similar pitchers quality, at least you could say, oh, well, it's been a low-scoring series and maybe that continues. I'm not sure how much I would buy that, but at least I'd understand the thought process. These pitchers are terrible. It's the first time all series we've had 2 terrible pitchers. The bullpens are going to get eaten alive because neither one of them have enough depth to really handle the fact that, but what happens if either one of these pitchers is out after 4? Neither one of these offenses inspire a lot of confidence, but the Rangers offense is decent enough. They should be able to score some runs here. Angels score a few. I'm not sure how many. I think the Rangers win this one. I think there's a lot of runs. I love this over. And I'll take the Rangers at plus 104. It's only a C-grade pick. Model says the Rangers should be a minus 102 favorite. So if we can get even better, bigger plus odds, I'd up that to a B grade. If you can get up to plus 10, maybe up to 108, 109, for sure by plus 110, it's a B grade. So I like the Rangers here. I think it's a coin tossy type game. And I just trust the biggest differentiator, I think, is I trust their offense more than I trust any other part of this ball. It's maybe the only thing I trust at all in this ball game. I don't trust the Angels offense. I don't trust either set of relievers. I don't trust either starter, but I do at least think the Rangers offense is decent. And so give me the Rangers at plus odds here, even though they're on the road. And what I think is going to be a high-scoring game, as like I said, I think this total is way underpriced. And so to recap the A play, starting us off here in the afternoon, we got the Guardians at plus 119 at the Rays. Got over 9 in Tigers and Blue Jays, and then we've got over 8.5 in Royals Yankees. Then we've got the Cardinals and the Nationals. We got the Cardinals minus 137. Got under 8.5 in the A's White Sox. Got the Cubs at plus 123 at the Giants. And then with the over 8.5 in the Rangers and Angels. And that's all I have for you today. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Picks with the Professor. A reminder to check out the Google Sheet for model picks, projections, and results. You can find that link and more at the website, www.pickswiththeprofessor.com. If you haven't done so yet, please click that subscribe button to ensure all the sports betting content we provide on this channel drops right into your feed. Again, I will see you tomorrow for another special episode of some more educational tools that you can use to help out your sports betting. Picks tomorrow will be in the Google Sheet. I'll tweet those out, but no picks show. We'll be back with those on Monday with my friend Jake. And until then, remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.